Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're listening to Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
So, on today's episode of Eating W's, we have Callan's Mock Draft 1.0. Now, of course, you heard mine last week, and I am excited because Callan's is very different from mine. And I'm sure you watched mine and said, those are awful picks. And you're probably going to watch Callan's and say, those are awful picks. Those
I
aren't
got
anything
some shock
that I
value
think.
in mine.
But that's actually something I wanted to kind of start by talking about because I really like that about this year's class. Is because I've been only paying attention to the NFL draft since like the 2018-2019 draft, so none too long by any means. But this is the first draft that I've really looked into and paid attention to that it's a mystery, bro. There is no certified number one. There's no like cemented top 10. There's not even a good idea on who all is going to go in the first round.
And top heavy positions. But yeah, there's almost every position doesn't even have a certified number one.
Exactly.
Or, a unanimous like, oh, this is the top guy at his position, let alone the top guy in the draft.
This year's draft is like a freaking March Madness tournament. Like,
almost.
You can
just unpredictable.
You can put out 100 different mock drafts and not get this year's draft perfect because it's just going to be so random.
Mm-hmm.
But with all that being said, I am excited to hand it over to Callan for his first overall pick.
So with the first pick, I got the Jaguars taking right tackle Ikwem Egonwu, the right tackle out of North Carolina State. Now I got him going over Evan Neal because, as I had said yesterday, I think they're building around the run. And this guy is the top run blocking run blocking offensive lineman. So because of that, I think that they go with Iguanu over Evan Neal and look to continue to build around the run.
I really like that pick. I still personally think they go Neal just because they also want to get that nice dual threat of protecting Lawrence. But I really, really like that pick because since they signed Sheriff, they're going for the run game.
Mm-hmm. And then at second for Detroit, I have them going with the homeboy, Aiden Hutchinson, the edge guy out of Michigan. And he's one of the top graded edge rusher in the pass and the run, against the pass and the run in college last year. And I mean, he's grew up in Michigan I don't know if he's from Detroit, but he's from Michigan, went to Michigan, so I think it's probably one of his dreams to play for the Lions, which I don't know how many of those are out there.
Weird dream, but
yeah, but maybe, I don't know, but growing up, hometown team.
Yeah, I definitely
that'd be pretty cool.
So. I'd still want to play for the Vikings, even.
Right? Yeah. Right.
We'll use if very lightly there, but I think this is probably about the most consensus pick in this entire draft, so I like it.
I disagree with that. I think that most consensus is the next pick here, which is the Houston Texans taking safety Kyle Hamilton, who I believe is probably the closest to the safest player in this draft.
Definitely.
He's probably the only one that's probably top at the position, and top at his position is safety, where you can say, yep, he's the consensus number one. And he might be the number one overall player in this class.
Yep. I think him and Hutchinson have very similar floors, but I think Hamilton has such a higher ceiling. Like I said, he's probably my favorite player in the draft. Call him the Phantom because he's not there when the quarterback throws it, and bam, there he is when the receiver gets it.
So I think that's a great defensive player for Lovie Smith to get. At number 4, I have the Jets with a little bit of surprise here, taking Charles Cross, the tackle out of Mississippi State. Now, I am taking Charles Cross for the Jets because they need to protect Zach Wilson. And this is the number one pass blocking right tackle in college last year. So I believe that they're going more specific to their system and what they're trying to do, and that is protect the quarterback because they learned what happens when you don't with Sam Darnold.
Man, if Becton can return to form, they got guys like Elijah Vera Tucker last year. They can hit on Charles Cross here, and they got Laken Tomlinson free agency. That's a solid O-line.
And the other reason is because they have Becton, I didn't have them taking Neal because I see Neal as more that left tackle. So that's another reason where I'm thinking, yeah, they might go Charles Cross over Evan Neal just because they already got that stalwart left tackle in Mekhi Becton.
Good eye.
So for the 5th pick for the New York Giants, that leaves them the awesome left tackle that is Evan Neal. Now they drafted Andrew Thomas last year, but I believe that Thomas can play right tackle, whereas Neal can slip in there on the left side, and they can also help to protect their franchise quarterback, I guess. But I mean, well, I guess the Giants did just sign Tyrod Taylor, so they're trying to complete the prophecy. Yeah, that just came over. Yeah, so they're trying their shot at the Tyrod prophecy this year with Daniel Jones. So hey, if they get Evan Neal, that's a good start there.
It should be nerve-wracking that you have to say franchise quarterback with that much question in your voice, but it's true. They seem to have committed to Daniel Jones, but now it's a little shaky. But I still really like the pick if Evan Neal is still there at 5.
Yeah. And then at 6 for the Carolina Panthers, I have them taking the first cornerback defensive back, and that is Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who is in my opinion, is the best corner in this draft. Do we want to go help them?
Sorry about that quick cut. Our dad just got here. He's got one of those nice booming voices that kind of fills the house. You can probably hear him a little bit. A voice that I could only wish that I'll have when I grow up.
Yeah, maybe we'll get there.
Maybe we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
But back to you with the 6
So I got the Panthers taking Sauce Gardner here, who in his whole career did not allow a single receiving touchdown. And that's just too good to pass up. I mean, that's just amazing. He started from a freshman, so for 4 years he didn't allow a single receiving touchdown. So I just think that Carolina can't pass that up.
Man, he is good. I still have Stingley over him just because I think if Stingley can recreate what he did earlier in his college career, but definitely a good pick. An insane stat. I love that stat that he never gave up a touchdown.
And then at 7, I have the New York Giants back up with a bit of a surprise and them reaching for Jameson Williams, the big play threat out of Alabama. Now, he tore his ACL, and the reports is that he is ahead of schedule on his recovery and could only miss just training camp. And I know that the Giants, who in my mock draft just drafted a big protector for the quarterback, now drafts a big weapon for the quarterback, and probably the best deep threat in this whole draft, even with the injury.
If you're really going to stick with Jones, you better build around him. You better give him something good. So Kenny Golladay sure did not work out there in New York. So you maybe get Kadarius Toney stepping up in his sophomore season. You get an elite rookie prospect like Jameson Williams. I like the pick.
And then next for the Atlanta Falcons, I have them going wide receiver also with Drake London out of USC, who is probably the top receiver, in terms of the healthy receivers. With Atlanta losing Calvin Ridley, they are in need of a receiver. So I believe that it is a safe bet that they draft one to replace him.
My favorite receiver in the draft. Know they need receiver. Love the pick.
And now for the shock of the draft. At number 9 overall, I got the Seattle Seahawks drafting the first quarterback, and it is Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. This is a Russell Wilson clone. He's just a little bit taller than Russ. He can sit behind Drew Lock for a couple years. He's a winner. He started at Cincinnati for 4 years. He's won a ton of games with him, and he plays like Russell Wilson. I mean, how much better can you get if you could just draft a taller Russell Wilson clone? I mean, they signed Matt Flynn and then drafted Russell Wilson, and look how it turned out. So maybe this is a little high for him, but I believe that if Seattle does not end up with Deshaun Watson, that this is the quarterback that they target.
Callan sent me a picture of his mock draft, and I barely even looked at the 31 other picks because my eyes locked in on this pick and said, what the hell? I don't know why, but I'm very anti-Desmond Ridder. I'm like on the opposite side of the scale. Like I said, no good reason. It's just one of those natural things where you don't really like a prospect. But, this guy pretty much became a game manager in college at Cincinnati, so look at all the college stars you see go to the NFL and become a game manager. if they come in as a game manager, but
Then they become the stars.
I hope he proves me wrong, but we'll see. It's a reach. But...
Yep. So, and then next we got the Jets back up, and they take edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau and get a weapon for Robert Saleh. Now, this is probably the best case scenario for the Jets, who not only get a stalwart at tackle, but now also get possibly the best defensive prospect in this draft. Now, he has a lot of raw ability to him, and needs to get his edges roughened out, but he definitely has the talent to take that defense to another level.
Man, if
Thibodeau.
If Kayvon Thibodeau is still there at 10 for the Jets, Saleh better be sprinting right at Goodell to go hand that pick in.
I think they will if this happens that way. At 11, I got the Washington Commanders taking the next quarterback in Matt Corral. And I believe that it would be Corral because he can sit behind Wentz for however long, and he's the opposite of Carson Wentz. Is he had a college low 10 turnovers last year. So Wentz, who is known to turn the ball over a lot, could possibly be turning it over to Matt Corral, who has the history of not turning the ball over.
I didn't know that he had the lowest turnover rate. That's pretty
good.
good.
I found that stat while doing this research.
Yep. I mean, I made the same exact pick in mind. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't. I flipped. I forgot about that. Sorry,
yeah.
I did pick it. But
yeah.
I had it originally before the Seahawks trade, so I still like it.
And then at 12, I have the Minnesota Vikings drafting Tyler Linderbaum, the center guard out of Iowa. I actually had Jordan Phillips up until they just signed, Jordan Davis, right up until they just signed Harrison Phillips. But with that, I figured they don't need the defensive lineman anymore, and they still need the offensive line help, especially inside.
This one I actually did have the same exact pick in mind. We let this whole free agency pass us by without picking up one of the many guards that were available in free agency. I really wanted us to get Sheriff or Tomlinson or one of the top guards, but we didn't. But hell, if we pick up Linderbaum in the draft, I am more than happy with that.
And then at 13, I have the Browns drafting Trayvon Walker. They have him as an edge. I have this guy as a defensive end. This guy can play defensive end in a 4-3 or a 3-4. He's played on that Georgia defensive line, which has, I think, about 5 first-round picks. So he played with a lot of talent around him. And he even has the ability to drop back into pass coverage if need be, which I guess is why they have him as an edge. But at his size, he's definitely a pure defensive end.
Yep. This guy is big. He reminds me a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence. I like the pick here for the Browns.
And then at 14, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. Stingley didn't perform quite as well as he had in recent years. He had kind of a down year, which is affecting his draft status. I know some have him as the top corner. So I have him going second second corner overall to the Ravens, who get one hell of a player, especially if they can recoup that ability that he played with a couple years ago.
Yep, they just cut Trayvon Young. They had a ton of injury troubles last year, so it's good to pick up a depth corner, especially one of the best in the draft.
At 15, I have the Philadelphia Eagles drafting George Karlaftis. And then this is another 4-3 defensive end where they have him as an edge, but I don't see him I see him with his hands in the ground, not standing up. He played that defensive end role at Purdue. The Eagles like their big, strong defensive ends, like to team up with opposite Derek Barnett. Brandon Graham, obviously getting older. I don't even know if he's still on the team. He might be a free agent.
I believe so, actually.
Even if not, then they need to get Young on that other side, opposite Derek Barnett. And then with the next pick for the Eagles, I have them getting their middle linebacker of the future in Devin Lloyd out of Utah. This is probably the best off-the-ball linebacker available in the draft. Not a highly sought-after position, but someone who could be the captain of that defense for years to come.
This is an aging defense there in Philadelphia, so I really like adding 2 young defensive guys to it.
Mm-hmm. And then at 17, I have the LA Chargers taking Bernard Raymond, the tackle out of Central Michigan. Now, the Chargers just released Brian Bulaga, so they need the offensive line help. I had debated, there's a couple other tackles that were available, but after, looking at a couple of other mock drafts, this is the one that seems to be consensus for the Chargers for the Chargers. He's actually from Austria, and he was a tight end up till just 2 years ago. And I mean, the Chargers have had good luck with former tight ends. Antonio Gates being a former basketball player to the tight end.
Yeah.
Maybe now they can take the former tight end and make him a star left tackle. So, yeah, I think that'd be a good pickup for them. I think it'll be offensive line either way.
Definitely. A little bit of a reach in my opinion, but this guy does have a huge ceiling, so we'll see how he does.
And then at 18, I have the New Orleans Saints drafting Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. And now, again, this is still with Deshaun Watson. Not sure where he's going yet. If the Saints end up with Watson, obviously I don't see them taking Pickett, but I'm predicting that they do not get Watson, and they have to get a young quarterback to either possibly jump and lead right away, which would be, I think, just fine with Pickett, or they possibly get a bridge with Winston for another year or two, and he sits behind him and learns. Either way, I think this is the closest they can get to Drew Brees.
Yep. To go back to the March Madness bracket comparison, Deshaun Watson is going to be a bracket buster. Wherever he goes, it's going to totally mess up everybody's mock draft. But if Deshaun Watson doesn't go to the Saints, I think Kenny Pickett goes into an awesome situation in New Orleans. He's got a stellar O-line, and it's always nice to have a guy like Alvin Kamara in the backfield with you.
And a really nice receiving core. And then at 19, I have the Philadelphia Eagles for the third time. Crazily enough, for the third time. I've never seen a team with 3 first-round picks in the NFL.
In the span of 4 picks.
Yeah,
third time.
Yeah, in that small amount too. But so I have them taking defensive back Trent McDuffie out of Washington. Now he's kind of smaller for being a cornerback. He's only 5'8", but what he lacks in size, he makes up for in play. He is one of the top corners in the Pac-12, and the Eagles really need help behind Darius Slay. I don't think they have anyone on the cornerback side behind Darius Slay right now.
Like I just said, they're a little bit aging on the defensive side of the ball, so I like getting defensive guys who are young, and Trent McDuffie is one of my favorite corners in the draft, so great pickup for the Eagles.
And then at 20, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers with my favorite pick in the draft, drafting Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. Now, I know they just signed Trubisky for 2 years, but I think that's perfect. Let Mitch run Pittsburgh for a couple years, draft this kid, and let him learn how to play the game. Let him learn the system with the coaches and the other quarterbacks. Mitch seems like a great guy. I'm sure that he'll help him out too, even though he knows that he's going to be just a bridge quarterback. But hey, they already say welcome to Mitchburg, so let Trubisky have the reins for a couple years, and then let this kid come in and take over the league, because I think he could be a star.
I don't overly like Malik Willis, but if he thrives, it's going to be as a running quarterback, a dual threat, kind of like Lamar Jackson. So actually, the Mitchell Trubisky pickup for them fits into that perfectly. You let Mitchell Trubisky be the scrambler athletic quarterback he always needed to be and never got to be in Chicago, work out the kinks how to run that type of offense, and then in a year or two when Malik Willis steps in, you'll have it all sitting there ready for him. Great situation for him there in Pittsburgh.
And then at 21, I have the New England Patriots selecting Kaiir Elam, defensive back out of Florida. This is almost a J.C. Jackson clone. He is like a little bit taller and just a shy underweight on compared to J.C. Jackson. And the other thing that I like about him is that his dad and his uncle were both defensive backs in the NFL. So he's got the pedigree, and that Belichick likes those kind of guys that have already been in the league and are kind of used to how the league is supposed to be ran.
I had them going linebacker, but after them trading for Mack Wilson and letting J.C. Jackson walk, I love the corner pick. And this guy fell out of my first round personally, but I think he's going to be a really good corner.
And then at 22, I have the Vegas Raiders selecting Tyquan Thompson. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Next best thing, though.
But I did. Yes, I do have them taking Chris Olave, because they still have the 4.26. I'm telling you. As soon as I saw that guy run a 4.26, I said that's who the Raiders are drafting, and I'm sticking with that. Even though it did change to the 4.39, I still believe that the Raiders see it as a 4-2-6. They were the ones running the clock that day. So I believe that this is the receiver that they get for their, annual fastest guy in the draft selection.
No, I really like the pick. They tried to tell the GM at Las Vegas that he ran a 4.39, not a 4.26, and he just kid style was like la 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 la. He would not accept it. He would not accept it. In his eyes, Chris Olave still ran a 4.26. But I mean, that's going to become a complete air raid battle AFC West. So I like them picking up a receiver.
And then at 23, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting David Ojabo, the edge guy out of Michigan. This is a pretty young, raw prospect. The Cardinals are losing Chandler Jones more than likely, so they need someone to replace him in that edge spot. Ojabo didn't really start until his senior year, so he doesn't have a whole lot of tread on the tires, which can be good and bad. So because of that rawness, he maybe is not the most refined prospect, but you also can really mold him into what you're looking for. And I believe that would be an edge guy for the Cardinals in their 4-3.
This guy fell out of my first round personally for the exact reason you just brought up, the fact that he only got 1 year starting. He's still pretty much a raw talent. But kind of to compare him to Gregory So, a lot of the same things were said about him last year. And he did pretty damn good for the Bills and looks like he might have a bright future. So I like the pickup here.
And then at 24, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Nakobe Dean, the middle linebacker out of Georgia. And this is probably the second best off-the-ball linebacker. He tested very well at the combine, and now they can get a middle linebacker to team up with Micah Parsons. They lost Leighton Vander Esch, so they need a new middle linebacker in Dallas to kind of take over the reins there, because Micah Parsons can play all over the field. This guy's more of a field general, as in he's just that off-the-ball linebacker, but I think he'd be a perfect fit in Dallas.
This guy kind of reminds me of a young Leighton Vander Esch. He plays with a ton of heart. He makes plays. He has a huge motor. Nakobe Dean is probably my favorite off-the-ball linebacker in this draft. I really think he has a chance to do well in the NFL.
And then at 25, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting Jordan Davis, the combine star out of Georgia. And this is the big Mama Jama who ran the 4.7 at whatever he was,
4.79 at 3.41.
Jesus.
Just insane.
That's just not even fair. But with the Buffalo Bills losing Harrison Phillips, they now have a hole in that defensive line. And boy, do they fill it up with this big guy.
Man, if you can get Jordan Davis at 25 in this draft, and like you just said, with the situation they're in, hell of a steal.
At 26, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State. Now this pick is more specific to the system. This guy is a box safety, and that's what the Titans need right now. They don't have a box safety. They have Kevin Byard, who's a great center field safety, but they have no one to play inside the box. This is a specific to the team kind of pick, where maybe he doesn't have a high grade on other drafts and on other big boards, but because of the system and the position of need, this fits perfectly for Tennessee.
Definitely a reach, but man, do I love matching a player with the system. So
that's what it is.
I'm all in on this pick. I like it.
But yeah, from what I was reading about Brisker, he was the top box safety in college. So, and that's what the Titans need.
I love match made in heaven.
And then at 27, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks selecting Devontae Wyatt, another defensive lineman out of Georgia. And this is, they're probably going to lose Ndamukong Suh. This is almost an exact replica kind of player. He is a pass rushing defensive tackle. He can fit right into Suh's spot. And, I think he still has that kind of old school, mentality to him that Suh had. Hopefully he's not stomping on people. But other than that, I think that it's perfect fit for Tampa Bay to just slide another piece right in there where they're going to lose Suh.
Fastest way to get to a destination is in a straight line. So when you can get a defensive tackle that can pressure a quarterback, it can become lethal if you use it right.
And at 28, a gift has fallen to the Green Bay Packers and Garrett Wilson, the natural, they call him, out of Ohio State. He was the top receiver at both the slot and the outside position. That's why they call him the natural, because no matter where you line him up on the field, it's just a natural ability for him. And I think he only falls to Green Bay just because of the way that, other team needs caused other players to go, unexpectedly, maybe like Brisker, or like David Ojabo, where maybe it's not as high of a prospect ranking, but because of the team need, they had the draft there. And with Garrett Wilson going to Green Bay, Devontae possibly not playing, this would be a great time for them to draft a wide receiver in the first round. And I think that if Garrett Wilson falls to 28, that they really need to strongly consider picking him up.
I think the only big obstacle to this one is him not getting taken at 18 by the Saints, but we'll see if they decide to go receiver. But I agree. I think they should seriously consider it, but it's going to come down to if they actually do the first round receiver or not.
I know. Every year I think they're going to take one. But maybe this is the year. And then at 29, I have the Miami Dolphins selecting cornerback Andrew Booth Jr. and out of Clemson. I compare him to basically just like Derek Stingley, where he played great a couple years ago. He had kind of a down year this year, but coming off of a championship caliber team, he has all the intangibles, and they really need somebody behind Xavier Howard.
I like it. Yep, I had him going a little higher, but I could see him falling to here too. The cornerbacks in this class are very interchangeable. It's going to be fun to see where they all end up.
Mm-hmm. And then at 30, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan. Now this is kind of the opposite of, I thought they were going to keep Tyrann Mathieu when I made this. They recently signed Justin Reed, who I'm not sure if he's a box safety or...
No, I think he's more of
a center field safety, and that's what I thought.
He's fast.
So Daxton Hill is more of that box safety again, and they also play their two safeties a lot, the Chiefs do, because usually they had Daniel Sorensen out there, and I don't see Dirty Dan as a true starting caliber safety. And then with the drafting pick of Daxton Hill, I believe that they start to begin their journey to replace Dirty Dan in the starting lineup.
Yep, I've seen this pick in a lot of different mocks. I think the Reed signing might throw a little bit of a wrench into that, but overall I still really like it.
And then at 31, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Trevor Penning, the mean tackle out of Northern Iowa. And this is a perfect pick for them. The Bengals need the offensive line help, and they get a mean Mullen SOB to get up there and match that meanness when they're facing somebody like Aaron Donald or Ndamukong Suh, because boy, did that offensive line get bullied in the Super Bowl.
Yep, definitely comes with some risk coming from a non-D1 school at UNI, but he's got a big ceiling, and if he can take a year to kind of get used to the NFL, he might have a bright future ahead of him.
And for the last pick, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Treylon Burks, a wide receiver out of Arkansas. Now they get a gift here by getting a possible star wide receiver. He just kind of fell through the cracks here in the first round. Detroit doesn't really have anyone, at wide receiver right now since they had let Galladay go last year. So this is a possible new number one for them. And whether it's Jared Goff or someone else, they're starting to rebuild that receiving core with this selection.
I really like this pick. I really like Treylon Burks, and one of my favorite things about him is he's very versatile. And something that's huge in the NFL right now is using your receivers at running back, which is something that the Lions actually did a little bit last season with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So this gives them another guy that they can do it with, and that was the main reason I gave him to the Falcons at 8 in my mock drafts, because the Falcons, of course, Mass are doing that with Cordero Patterson. So love the pick here with him going to the Lions.
Yep. I think they'd really benefit from getting a guy like this, especially now with DJ Shark for a year.
Okay, and then that's it. That is the official end to Callan's Mock Draft 1.0. Of course, mine especially, and even Callan's a little bit already. I've got totally broken by some free agency signings, but it's still really fun to do. We'll update them at some point, not sure exactly when yet. We might do that kind of hybrid one that we talked about during mine, where we go every other, like I take odds, Callan takes even picks, but we'll see. We'll definitely what am I even saying? We'll definitely update it before the official start of the draft, but thank you all so much for watching this episode, and until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.